Hi everyone! Welcome dito sa panibagong discussion natin sa income taxation. Sa videong ito ay pag-uusapan natin ang regular income tax, inclusion in gross income. Pero bago pa man ang lahat, nais ko lamang banggitin na I am giving full credit kay Sir Rex B. Bangkawan, CPA, MBA for his book, Income Taxation, Laws, Principles in Applications. Yung discussion ko dito is actually based dun sa aklat niya. And class, if you find my discussion helpful to your studies, please do consider subscribing to this channel. Paki-like na rin sa video if okay lang sa inyo. And maybe you could share this video to your friends or classmates sa income taxation para matulungan din sila sa kanilang studies. Okay? Okay. So, last time, napag-usapan natin yung mga exclusion from gross income. Dapat by now, kabisado niyo na kung ano-ano yung mga exclusions from gross income, ha? Kasi importante yun para ma-master itong regular income tax. Now, dito sa video na ito ay pag-uusapan natin ang inclusion in gross income. Basically, ito yung mga income items subject to regular income tax. So, what are this? Meron tayong listahan dito. But I want you to take note class ha, hindi ibig sabihin na dahil ito lang yung nasa listahan, ito lang ang subject to regular income tax. No. Yung gross income subject to regular income tax is not only limited to the following items listed. So we have compensation for services in whatever form paid, gross income from the conduct of trade, business, or exercise of a profession, gains derived from dealings in properties, interest, rents, royalties, dividends, annuities, prizes and winnings, pensions, and partners' distributive share from the net income of general professional partnership. Okay, we will be discussing each of these items and sisimulan natin sa number 1, compensation for services in whatever form paid. So, compensation for services in whatever form paid basically refers to the compensation income. Ano naman yung compensation income? Ito yung employee benefits that are subject to the regular income tax. Yung French benefits class na na-enjoy ng mga managers or supervisory employees, hindi yun compensation income. It is another form of income which is subject to the final tax. Specifically, ang tawag sa final tax na yun ay French benefit tax. So, magkakaroon tayo ng separate discussion para sa French benefit tax ha. And for this compensation income, kasi malawak yung scope nito, we will be having a separate discussion for this. So, for now, proceed muna tayo sa pangalawang gross income item subject to the regular income tax. And this is the gross income from the conduct of trade, business, or exercise of a profession. This includes income galing sa anumang klaseng business, whether yung business na yun ay legal or illegal, whether it is registered or unregistered. The gross income from the business or profession is going to be computed in this manner. We have sales or revenues or receipts or fees, whichever is applicable, minus the cost of sales or services. So the balance or the answer to that is the gross income from the operations. And we have here the list of the business income that will not be included in gross income subject to regular income tax. So basically, etong mga business income na ito ay exempt from the regular income tax. So ano-ano ang mga ito? We have the business income exempt from the income tax, such as yung gross income galing sa BMBE, which we already discussed in the previous video. And then we also have gross income from enterprises enjoying tax holiday incentives. Another business income na exempted from the regular income tax ay etong mga business income that is subject to the special tax regime, like the PEZA registered enterprises or the Philippine Economic Zone Authority registered enterprises, because they are subject to the 5% cross income tax. Another one is etong TIEZA registered enterprises or Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority registered enterprises, as they are subject to the same 5% cross income tax. And then we also have the income of the self-employed and or individuals who chooses to be or who opted to be taxed under the 8% income tax. Another business income that shall not be included as part of the gross income subject to regular income tax ay itong business income which are subject to final tax when not subjected to final tax by the payer. This includes subcontractors of petroleum service contractors as they are subject to the 8% final tax, and also yung business income galing sa foreign currency deposit units and also offshore banking units from the Philippine residents as they are subject to the 10% final tax. Now, what if si taxpayer meron siyang iba-ibang klase ng business income? Ibig sabihin, meron siyang income which is subject to the regular income tax, meron naman siyang income subject to the special tax rates, tapos meron pa siyang income which is exempt from the income tax. So, papaano ba yung reporting ng kanyang mga income dun sa annual income tax return? So, ganito yung magiging presentation ng kanyang income dun sa kanyang annual income tax return. So, for his or her gross income subject to the regular income tax, it will be presented under the regular column. Yung gross income naman niya na subject to the special tax rate, it will be presented under the special column. Tapos, yung income naman niya na exempt from the income tax, it will be presented in the total exempt column. Now, let's proceed to the next income item that should be included as part of the gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, we are now in gains derived from dealings in properties. So, yung gains or losses galing dun sa dealings in ordinary assets are going to be subject to the regular income tax. Take note class ha, yung pinag-uusapan natin dito ay ordinary assets. Gains or losses in dealing in ordinary assets. So, can you recall ano ba yung ordinary assets? I believe we already discussed and differentiate as well ordinary assets from the capital assets when we were discussing the capital gains taxation. Pero as a review, para ma-refresh yung minds nyo and maalala nyo si ordinary assets and capital assets, so I think I need to explain this again. So yung ordinary assets, yun yung mga assets that are held for sale, just like inventory, and mga assets that are held for use in the business. Like for example, yung supplies and yung property, plant, and equipment. Again, ano yung ordinary assets? Yun yung mga assets that are held for sale, like for example, inventory, and yung mga assets held for use in the business, like for example, supplies and property, plant, and equipment. So again, gains or losses derived from the sale, exchange, and other disposition of the assets held for sale and assets held for use of the business are going to be subject to the regular income tax. Next is the dealings in capital assets other than those domestic stocks and real properties are also subject to the regular income tax. So, dealings in capital assets. Ano naman yung capital assets? These are those assets that does not meet the definition of the ordinary assets. Kumbaga, kapag yung asset ay hindi pasok dun sa definition ng ordinary assets, then it will fall under the capital assets category. So, kapag yung asset ay hindi ginamit sa business and hindi naman binibenta sa business, then that is a capital asset. So, specifically, ano-ano ba itong mga capital assets? So, it could be personal, ibig sabihin non-business assets ng isang individual taxpayer. And actually, pwedeng business assets but it would only be limited to the financial assets and intangible assets. When we say financial assets, that includes cash, receivables, prepaid expenses, and investments. Intangible assets naman, those are patents, copyrights, leasehold rights, and franchise. But class, take note ha, hindi lahat ng dealings in capital assets ay subject sa regular income taxation. Hindi lahat. Kasi etong dealings ng domestic stocks and real properties, they are subject to the capital gains taxation and not to the regular income taxation. Okay? For the dealings in ordinary assets or sale, exchange, or other disposition of ordinary assets, it could actually result to either ordinary gain or ordinary loss. If it will result into an ordinary gain, so the amount of the ordinary gain will be included as part of the gross income. Kapag ito ay nag-result sa ordinary loss naman, then the amount of the loss is going to be an item of deduction against the gross income. So, dito sa aklat ng sa Rex class, merong ibang chapter dedicated for the discussion of this topic. So, ang gagawin ko din is that I'm going to record a separate video discussion dedicated for this topic as well. Okay? For now, proceed muna tayo sa iba pang income item that should be included as part of the gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, we are now in interest. So, ang tinutukoy na interest income dito na subject to the regular income tax ay yung interest income na hindi covered sa final taxation. So, dapat alam nyo kung ano yung mga interest income na subject sa final tax. So, can you still recall? No? Na-discuss na natin yung final taxation, di ba? So, can you still recall ano yung interest income na subject to final tax? We have the interest income galing sa bank deposits or deposit substitutes. So, kapag yung binigay sa problem ay interest income galing sa deposits o kaya deposit substitutes, so matik na yan, that is not subject to regular income tax but that is subject to the final tax. A taxable interest income must have been actually paid out of the agreement to pay interest. It cannot be imputed. So, hindi pwedeng theoretical interest lang. Dapat yung interest income to be taxable, it has to be paid already. So, dapat bayad na siya out of the agreement to pay interest. We have here some specific examples of interest income na subject to the regular income tax. We have interest income galing sa lending activities ng mga banko, finance companies, and other lenders. We also have interest income galing sa bonds and promissory notes. And we also have interest income galing sa bank deposits abroad. Take note ha, although this is bank deposits, pero yung banko ay nasa abroad. Okay, so tandaan nyo ha kung ano-ano yung mga interest income na subject to the regular income tax. So basically, yun yung mga interest income galing sa pautang and interest income galing sa bank deposits abroad. Now, dito naman tayo sa mga interest income which is exempt from the regular income tax. We have interest income earned by landowners in disposing their lands to their tenants. This is pursuant to the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. We also have imputed interest income, meant to say theoretical interest income. Take note class, in order for the interest income to be taxable, it has to be collected already out of the agreement to pay interest. Hindi pwedeng imputed, hindi pwedeng theoretical lang. It should be an actual income. Let us now have this illustration. Sapphire Bank has the following income in 2014. So we have interest income from loans, 3 million pesos. Interest income from deposits from other banks, 400,000 pesos. Interest income from notes rediscounting, 100,000 pesos. And then interest income from treasury notes, 50,000 pesos. Okay, so let us identify which of these are subject to the final tax and which of these are subject to the regular income tax. We'll start with the interest income from loans, 3 million pesos. So, yung loans, sino ba yung nag-grant ng loan? Usually, it's the banks or financial institutions or, generally, mga lenders. So, ito ay isang pautang. And this is subject to the regular income tax. Now, interest income from deposits from other banks. Hindi naman sinabi na yung interest income galing sa bank deposits ay galing abroad. So, this is final tax. Kasi kapag yung interest income ay galing sa bank deposits abroad, so that will be subject to regular income tax. So, dito kasi hindi sinabing galing abroad. So, this is final tax. Next is interest income from notes rediscounting, 100,000 pesos. So, yung notes dito, yung tinutukoy dito is the promissory notes. So, kapag yung pinag-uusapan ay interest income galing sa promissory notes o kaya bonds, that is subject to the regular income tax. Now, interest income from treasury notes, 50,000. So, nabanggit ko kanina, 'di ba, na yung interest income galing sa bank deposits and deposit substitutes, they are subject to the final tax. So, aside from these items, actually, yung final tax is also applied to the interest income coming from government securities, money market placements, trust funds, and other investments evidenced by certificates prescribed by the BSP. So again, aside from the interest income galing sa bank deposits and deposit substitutes, yung final tax is also applied to government securities, money market placements, trust funds, and other investments evidenced by certificates as prescribed by the BSP. So yung government securities, that includes treasury bonds, treasury bills, and treasury notes. So this means etong interest income from treasury notes dito sa illustration na 50,000 pesos, this is subject to the final tax. Now let us move on to the next income item that should be included as part of the gross income subject to the regular income tax. So we are now in rents. I believe alam natin lahat ano yung rent income. No? It's an income galing sa properties na pinarentahan. So if you're going to think about it, it's somewhat like a passive income, no? Kasi si owner, naghihintay lang yan eh, nalilipas yung araw, lilipas yung isang buwan, and after that, mangongolekta na siya ng bayad, ng rent, galing sa kanyang mga tenants. So it's somewhat like a passive income. Pero kasi, dun sa NIRC, hindi naman siya sinali dun sa mga income na subject to final tax. So therefore, yung rent income, ito ay subject sa regular income tax. Now, we have this special considerations na dapat nating isalang-alang when it comes to rent. So we have number 1, obligations of the lessor that are assumed by the lessee are additional rental income to the lessor. So, sino ba si lessor and si lessee? So, si lessor, yun yung may-ari ng property na pinarentahan. Si lessee naman, yun yung nagrenta. Yun yung tenant. So, sabi dito, kapag si lessor merong obligation, tapos yung nagbayad sa obligation na yun ay si lessee, so yung binayad ni lessee, it's going to be treated as additional rental income on the part of the lessor. Okay, number 2. Advance rentals or items of gross income upon receipt if it is unrestricted or restricted to be applied in future years or upon the termination of the lease. And letter B, advance rentals are not an item of gross income if 1, it constitutes a loan, and 2, it is a security deposit to guarantee payment or rent as subject to contingency which may or may not happen. So, ganito kasi yan class, sa taxation, yung advance income is going to be taxable upon receipt. So, for example, si lessor, nakatanggap siya on January 2023 ng 200,000 pesos galing sa kanyang tenant. And that 200,000 pesos, yun na yung kabuuang bayad ni tenant para sa 2 taon niya na rent. So, if you're going to think about it, kasi ngayon 200,000 pesos, yun yung kabuuang bayad ni tenant for 2 years na rent. So, it will start from 2023 until 2024. And take note, hindi pa nga natatapos yung 2023. So, for sure, merong portion doon na advance payment pa ni tenant sa kanyang rent. Sa accounting yan, on the part of the lessor, meron tayong tatawagin na rental income, and then meron din tayong portion na tatawagin na unearned rental income. Pero sa taxation class, yung buong amount na 200,000 pesos is going to be treated as a rent income the moment it is received. So, yung buong amount na 200,000 pesos is going to be subject to the regular income tax. However, kapag yung natanggap ni lessor galing kay lessee or galing kay tenant ay isa palang utang, isang loan, so of course, hindi yun rental income on the part of the lessor. And let's say for example, yung natanggap pala ni lessor galing kay lessee or tenant ay isa palang security deposit. So, hindi rin yun rental income. Kasi yung security deposit, ibabalik yun ni lessor dun kay lessee at the end of the lease term. Another consideration that we need to think about when it comes to rent ay yung sa leasehold improvements. Leasehold improvements made by the lessee on the leased property are recognized by the lessor as income using the spread out method or outright method. Pero I'm not going to discuss this fully class ha, kasi Itong topic na to, this is one of the topics that are discussed in Chapter 4 sa income tax schemes, accounting periods, methods, and reporting. Alright, now let's have this illustration. Under the IBA Leasing Corporation standard lease contract, leases shall run for a non-predeterminable 12-month period for a monthly rental of 25,000 pesos. The leasee shall pay 3 months rental in advance plus 1 month security deposit. The rent for the last 2 months of the lease shall be taken from the advance, while the security deposit will be returned if there are no damages sustained by the property during the lease term. In this case, class, yung 3-month rental in advance amounting to 75,000 pesos, that is 25,000 times 3, as well as the rent for the last 2 months of the lease is going to be considered or treated as an income, and that will be subject to the regular income tax. However, the security deposit, which is equivalent to the 1-month rent amounting to 25,000 pesos, it will not be considered as rent income. So therefore, hindi yun subject sa regular income tax. Another item of gross income subject to the regular income tax ay etong royalties. So, meron tayong dalawang uri ng royalties. Meron tayong tinatawag na active royalty and passive royalty. Kapag si taxpayer, meron pa ring active involvement, that is active royalty. Kapag wala siyang active involvement, that is a passive royalty. Passive royalty is subject to the final tax, while etong active royalty, ito yung subject sa regular income tax. And aside from the active royalty income, subject din sa regular income tax yung royalties that are earned outside from the Philippines. Again yung royalties that are subject to the regular income tax ay yung royalty income na active in nature, and also yung royalties that are earned outside from the Philippines. For example, Forest Software is a distributor of a computer program and earns royalties from its licensed users. Computer programs are specifically tailored to each client, and regular continuing maintenance services are provided. During the year, client users remitted a total of 500,000 pesos royalty payments. Okay. So, yung royalty dito ba ay active or passive? Take note class yung sabi dito, si Forest Software ay mag-provide ng regular continuing maintenance services. So, meron pa ring active involvement si Forest Software sa kanyang mga clients. So, kapag merong active involvement, that means it's an active royalty, and that is subject to the regular income tax. So, yung 500,000 pesos dito na royalty payments will be subject to the regular income tax. Another example, Mang Damian has the following royalties. Royalties from mining properties in the Philippines, 550,000 pesos. Royalties from books published in the Philippines, 200,000 pesos. Royalties from books published abroad, 300,000 pesos. And lastly, we have royalties from franchise exercised abroad, 400,000 pesos. Okay, remember class na yung royalty subject to the regular income tax ay yung mga active royalty at yung royalties that are earned outside the Philippines. Now, isa-isahin natin itong mga royalties ni Mang Damian. First one is royalties from mining properties in the Philippines, 550,000 pesos. Is this an active or a passive royalty? This is a passive royalty, and this is subject to final tax. Next is the royalties from books published in the Philippines, 200,000 pesos. Is this an active or a passive royalty? Meron pa bang active involvement after publishing a book? Wala na, di ba? So this is a passive income, and this is subject to final tax. Next, royalties from books published abroad. Take note, it is published abroad. So yung royalty dito is earned outside the Philippines. So therefore, this is subject to the regular income tax. Next is the royalties from franchise exercise abroad, 400,000 pesos. O abroad pa rin, di ba? So this is a royalty earned outside the Philippines. So this is subject to the regular income tax. Now, moving on to the dividends. So, yung dividends na tinutukoy dito that are subject to the regular income tax ay yung dividends galing sa foreign corporation, whether that dividend is a cash, property, or a scrip dividend. Okay, take note na yung dividends that are declared by domestic corporations are generally subject to the 10% final tax if the recipient is an individual taxpayer and exempt if the recipient is a domestic or a resident foreign corporation. By the way, class, when we say foreign corporation, that refers to the corporation that is organized under a foreign law. Yung domestic corporation naman, that is a corporation that is organized under the Philippine law. So again, class, yung dividend subject to the regular income tax ay yun lang dividends galing sa mga foreign corporations. May it be a cash dividend, a property dividend, or a scrip dividend. When it comes to stock dividends, kasi yung stock dividends, hindi naman yan considered as an income. So therefore, hindi yan subject sa income tax. However, in cases wherein after the declaration of the stock dividend, nagkaroon na ng changes sa interest, nagkaroon na ng changes dun sa rights. And also in the case wherein after the declaration of the stock dividend, nagkaroon ng subsequent redemption. Ibig sabihin, binili ng issuing company yung stock dividends na in-issue na previously. So, that is tantamount to cash dividend already. So, yung fair market value ng stock dividends received in that case is going to be taxable. As to liquidating dividends naman, they are not considered as an income, so therefore, hindi sila subject sa income tax. So, liquidating dividends actually, they are considered as an exchange para dun sa amount ng investment ng mga investors. And therefore, that is subject to the rules of the dealings in properties. Now, let us have this example. Cubao Company, a domestic corporation, received cash dividends from the following: domestic corporations, 400,000 pesos, resident foreign corporations, 200,000 pesos, and then non-resident foreign corporations, 300,000 pesos. So, itong dividends na natanggap ni Cubao Company galing sa domestic corporation na 400,000, ito ay exempt. Kasi si Cubao Company ay domestic, and then yung 400,000 pesos ay galing din sa isang domestic corporation. So, domestic to domestic, that is exempt from the tax. So, ibig sabihin, itong 400,000 pesos na dividend galing sa domestic corporations ay hindi siya item of gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, hindi siya kasali doon sa gross income subject to the regular income tax. Now, how about this dividends from the resident foreign corporations, 200,000 pesos. Tapos, etong dividends galing sa non-resident foreign corporations, 300,000 pesos. So, remember na yung dividends na subject to the regular income tax ay yung mga dividends na declared ng mga foreign corporations, whether that dividend is cash, property, or scrip. So, tingnan nyo dito. These two dividends, itong 200,000 pesos and 300,000 pesos, these are both coming from foreign corporations. So, ibig sabihin, itong dalawang to is subject to the regular income tax. So, we have 200,000 plus 300,000. So, there is a total dividends of 500,000 pesos that is subject to the regular income tax. Now, let us assume that Cubao Company is a resident foreign corporation. So, in this case, itong dividends galing sa domestic corporations na 400,000 pesos, this is still exempt. Okay? Tandaan nyo, kapag yung nag-declare ng dividends ay isang domestic corporations, tapos yung recipient ay isang domestic corporation o kaya resident foreign corporation, yung dividends na yon ay exempt from the tax. So, therefore, hindi siya item of gross income subject to the regular income tax. Now, for the dividends coming from resident foreign corporations na 200,000 pesos, only a portion of this amount is going to be part of the gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, you need to compute for the predominance test pa in order to know how much. This predominance test, this is already discussed in chapter 3. So, hindi na natin to pag-uusapan dito ha. Now, moving on to the dividends from the non-resident foreign corporations, 300,000 pesos. So, ang situs kasi dito is abroad. So, therefore, hindi siya subject to tax dito sa Pilipinas. Let us now proceed to the next item of gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, we are now in annuities. So, yung annuities, yung excess ng annuity payments na natanggap ng recipient over sa premium payments niya is going to be taxable income in the year of the receipt. Halimbawa, Si Andrew, bumili siya ng annuity contract worth 100,000 pesos. And that annuity contract will pay him 10,000 pesos annually until he dies. In this case, class, yung first 10 annuity payments na natanggap ni Andrew is going to be considered as a return of capital. Again, yung first 10 annuity payments na natanggap niya is a return of capital. So 10,000 times 10, that is equal to 100,000 pesos, which is also the worth of the annuity contract. So that is a return of capital. However, yung annuity payments na matatanggap ni Andrew after the 10th annuity payment, which is yung pang 11 and onwards, that will be considered as an income. So it's an item of gross income subject to the regular income tax. Now, dito na tayo sa prizes and winnings. So, sabi dito, yung prizes and winnings na exempt from the final tax are not items of gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, kapag exempt sa final tax, ibig sabihin, hindi rin yun kasali sa gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, what are those exempt prizes and winnings? Ito ay ang prizes received without effort to join a contest, yung prizes in athletic competitions sanctioned by the respective national sports association, and yung winnings galing sa PCSO or Lotto not exceeding 20,000 pesos in amount. Alright, we have here a summary of the rules of the prizes and winnings para sa mga individual taxpayers that you guys need to familiarize. So this is it. So when it comes to prizes that are worth 10,000 pesos and below and earned within and outside the Philippines, that will be subject to the regular income tax. If the prizes, on the other hand, is more than 10,000 pesos, then it will be subject to the final tax if it is earned within the Philippines. Pero if it is earned outside the Philippines, then it will be subject to the regular income tax. For PCSO and Lotto winnings here in the Philippines, kapag yung winnings exceeds 20,000 pesos, then it will be subject to the final tax. Kapag it does not exceed 20,000 pesos naman, then it will be exempt from the tax. For winnings from other sources, that will be subject to final tax if it is earned within the Philippines, and subject naman siya sa regular tax kapag ito ay earned outside the Philippines. So again, those are for individual taxpayers. So paano naman yung mga corporations, yung mga corporate taxpayers? So if the corporations have this taxable prizes and winnings, then it will be subject to the regular income tax. Okay, now let us have this illustration. The city of Baguio held its Panagbinga Flower Festival. During the festivities, Mr. Eroreta, the proprietor of Mr. Sexy Body Gym, won the 500,000 pesos second prize in the flower float competition. John Hay Corporation won the 600,000 pesos first prize. So, ilalabas ko muna, class, yung summary ng ating rules when it comes to prizes and winnings. Ayan, ito siya. So, yung pinag-uusapan natin dito sa illustration is prizes. So, magkano yung prize na napanalunan ni Mr. Erorita? 500,000 pesos. And saan? Baguio. Baguio is in the Philippines or inside the Philippines. So, let us look at the prizes portion. So, the price is 500,000. So, that means that is more than 10,000 and that is earned within the Philippines. So, ito siya. So, that will be subject to final tax. Yung 500,000 pesos is subject to final tax. So, this would mean na yung City of Baguio dapat sila ay mag-withhold ng final tax dun sa winnings ni Mr. Erorita. The final tax for that is 20%. Okay? Now, how about dito sa napanalunan ni John Hay Corporation? 600,000 pesos yung price. So, ito ay corporation. So, anong sabi? Yung corporations, yung prizes and winnings ng corporations ay subject sa regular income tax. Let us now proceed to the next income item that should be included as part of the gross income subject to the regular income tax. So, we are now in pensions. So, yung tinutukoy na pensions dito, class, ito ay yung mga pensions and retirement benefits na hindi nakapag-comply dun sa requirements na sineset for exemption. So, ano na ba yung mga requirements or requisites to make the pension or retirement benefit exempt. So, ito siya. So, na-discuss lang natin to sa previous chapter. So, hindi ko na to, babanggitin pa, but at least pinakita ko sa inyo. So, ito yung 11050 RPBP. So, kapag hindi ito na-comply, itong mga requirements na ito, then the retirement benefit or the pension in that case would be taxable, and that will be subject to the regular income tax. Now, moving on to the last item in the list. Ito ay yung partners distributive share from the net income of general professional partnership. So, firstly, ano ba yung general professional partnership or GPP? So, ito ay isang uri ng partnership wherein yung partners dito ay may pare-pareho na profession. So, yung purpose ng establishment sa GPP is for the exercise of the common profession. So, pag accountants lahat, hindi pwedeng may sasaling doktor. The general professional partnerships or GPPs are not subject to the income tax. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila subject sa final tax, sa capital gains tax, o kaya sa regular income tax. That is because they are considered as a pass-through entity. So, ang taxable kasi dito ay yung mga partners. So, they are taxable on their share in the net income of the GPP. So, for this purpose, yung net income ng GPP shall include the items of income which are exempted from the final tax or capital gains tax to the GPP. Now, let's have this illustration. So, Zeph and Siegfried practice their profession in a GPP and share profits 60-40. So, 60 kay Zeph, 40 kay Siegfried. Their firm reported the following. Gross receipts 2 million pesos, less professional expenses of 1,200,000 pesos. So the net income from operations is 800,000 pesos. And then plus the interest income from bank deposits, 20,000 pesos. So the total distributive net income is 820,000 pesos. So take note class ha, dito sa general professional partnership, yung final tax, yung income that are exempt from final tax and capital gains tax are going to be included in the distributive net income of the GPP. That is why class itong interest income from bank deposits na 20,000 pesos, this is exempt from the final tax kasi ganun naman yung GPP, exempt sila sa income tax. So, hindi sila subject sa final tax, sa capital gains tax, or sa regular income tax. So, as I said earlier, or as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the income exempt from the final tax and capital gains tax, it will be included as part of the net income of the GPP. So that explains why the interest income from bank deposits amounting to 20,000 pesos is added to the net income of the GPP. Now, let's go to the computations of the share of the net income of the partners. So, for Zeph, that would be 820,000 pesos times 60%, that is equal to 492,000 pesos. And then for Siegfried, that is 820,000 pesos times 40%, that is equal to 328,000 pesos. So, itong individual shares ni Zeph and Siegfried, it will be added to their respective individual gross income, and that will be subject to the regular income tax. And take note that this rule also applies to exempt joint ventures and exempt co-ownership. For a business partnership and taxable joint venture or co-ownership, itong mga entities na to, they are subject to the corporate income tax. The distributive share of a partner, venture, or co-owner from the net income of these entities, if organized within the Philippines, is going to subject to the 10% final withholding tax. And then if these entities are organized or constituted abroad, the share from their profit is subject to the regular income tax for taxpayers taxable and global income.